Officer Michael Fanone and Sergeant Aquilino Gonell were both police officers who defended the Capitol on January 6th. Officer Fanone has since toured the country with Courage for America, a group speaking out against American extremism. He's the author of Hold the Line, the Insurrection, and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul. Sergeant Gonell is also a council member with Courage for America, authored the book American Shield, the Immigrant Sergeant Who Defended Democracy, and of a new op-ed titled January 6th was one of the worst days of my life, and I do not want to see it happen again. And they both join me now. Gentlemen, it's wonderful to have you both here. Sergeant Gonell, let me just start with you and get your reaction to two things that J.D. Vance said. First of all, that he wouldn't say who won the 2020 election, and then a even more audacious lie where he said, for all the whining you Democrats are doing, they peacefully transferred power on January 20th, so what's the big deal?
Well, thanks for having me on your show. And to that, I say, January 6th was not peaceful. Peaceful is him doing a handshake and wishing the other party well for the good of the country. On January 6th, what we encountered was the violence that MAGA Republicans and the former president, the leading candidate who now is proposing to do it all over again, another January 6th. So all the sacrifices that we did to protect those elected officials, J.D. Vance, he was not there at the Capitol on January 6th, fortunately for him, but I could see him probably running just like he did with Josh Hawley did on January 6th, while we were protecting them from being harmed. It's a desecration of our sacrifices that we did on that day.
Mike, I want to just get your thoughts about what went through your mind as you saw J.D. Vance very sort of blithely dismiss the whole thing.
J.D. Vance is a liar. He's Donald Trump's useful idiot, and he's going to say anything to appease Donald Trump. At the end of the day, what I've come to learn about J.D. Vance is that he is a pure opportunist, and he is looking to further his own political career, just like so many other Republicans in this moment who know that Donald Trump is dangerous, who know that Donald Trump is a disgrace, but are willing to allow themselves or will pay fealty to him to further their own political careers. So at the end of the day, like I said, J.D. Vance is a liar. January 6th was brutal. It was violent. Law enforcement officers were severely beaten, myself and Sergeant Gonell included. And that is the reality of January 6th.
Sergeant Gonell, I want to quote from your op-ed and then ask you a question about it. You say patriotism isn't targeting non-citizen voting, which is extremely rare. It's defending democracy from the very real threats of extremism and from the possibility of another January 6th. You are an immigrant to this country who served your adopted country. You served this nation. You worked as a Capitol police officer. You defended the Capitol on that day. And as you watch this demonization of immigrants from the people that want to be in power once again, this scaremongering, vile libel, and the sort of memory holding of January 6th, what do you think?
It's unfortunately they had even tried to pass the SAVE Act, which is a MAGA, Project 2025 project, legislation they want to pass where immigrants are going to be stripped of their naturalizations, their protected status, legal status. It's very unfortunate because, here I am, possibly the poster child of what Republicans used to say of the type of immigrant that they want in this country. Somebody who comes here legally, somebody who get an education, somebody who joined the military, somebody who go to war and then come back and become a police officer and continue to defend the nation at the Capitol steps. And instead of saying, thank you for your service, I'm glad to have you here, they had not even sat down with either myself, Michael Fanone or any of the other Capitol Police officers who defended the Capitol to say, hey, tell us about your experience, and we're going to support you. And when they say that they support the police, that's a nice slogan. I don't buy it anymore because they support every other cops, every other police officer, except for Capitol Police and those who responded on January 6th to protect the elected officials who were running for their lives because the mob that their candidate, their leader, sent to attack on January 6th. And that's infuriating that they had scapegoated the immigrants, like myself included.
Michael, I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last few years. We've talked a bit, and what I wanted to ask you about is this idea, which I think is a little insidious, that, like, I don't know, only out-of-touch elites care about democracy, defending democracy. Now, you're a guy from Maryland. You live in a rural area, a fairly conservative area. You're a Baltimore police officer for years. You worked undercover. I think you were a detective at one point. And I wonder what you think about that idea that, like, real people don't care about this stuff, that this is some concern of, like, you know, cloistered elites.
Well, no disrespect to Baltimore City Police, but I was a D.C. Police officer.
Oh, I'm sorry, D.C. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know. When I went to the Capitol on January 6th, the furthest thing from my mind was protecting democracy. Yeah, I went to the Capitol to support my fellow officers, officers who were screaming distress calls over the radio because they were being assaulted by Donald Trump's supporters. In the aftermath of January 6th, obviously, I've come to understand much better what our democracy is, what it takes to sustain it. And I think many Americans have been educated in the aftermath of January 6th about how fragile democracy is. You know, Liz Cheney talked about it in her speech this evening about how, you know, democracy is something that each generation is going to have to ante up and kick in. And I think this moment is our generation's moment in which we now recognize this threat posed by Donald Trump, an insurrectionist candidate for president, and his supporters, who are insurrectionist members of Congress and insurrectionist members of the Republican Party, and how much of a threat they pose to our democracy. And I think Americans are going to rise to the occasion, and they are going to deliver him a defeat on November 5th.
Thank you, Michael, for correcting me, and apologies to the NPD for stealing your valor in their favor. Go ahead, Aquilino.
And one thing that a lot of people need to get straight, wanting to hold the former president for his violent interference in the transfer of power in the last election does not equate interference for the next one. At the end of the day, he himself has been the one trying to delay the process of holding him accountable through the court system. You know, and it's up to all of us, the voters, to repudiate that type of violence behavior and conduct for anybody, from any candidate. And we should do everything possible, and that's what we're doing, what we do, working with Courage for America to hold and spread the word that this political rhetoric should be not accepted.
Sergeant Aquilino Gonell, Officer Michael Fanone, thank you, gentlemen, both. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.